Welcome back, everybody. Atlanta rapper Young Thug appeared in court for the first time in person on Thursday after being locked up in May as part of a huge gang indictment. Now, prosecutors say Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, is one of the founders of Young Slime Life, often known as just YSL. Authorities say it is a criminal street gang that's behind everything from armed robberies to murders. Young Thug's defense says Young Stoner Life is just a record label. Now, one of the issues that has come up time and time again during pretrial hearings in this case is whether lyrics in Young Thug's music can be used against him. While an entertainment attorney that we spoke with says that is a slippery slope.
We have this artistic freedom of expression, and obviously that's something that the courts have always tried to preserve and protect. And so if we cannot speak freely, if something that we creatively express can be used against us in a court of law, then that's certainly going to silence a lot of people. And in the rap space, a lot of the personas are really based on things that are themes in rap, and one of those is violence a lot of times. So because of that, it's almost disproportionately going to affect a certain community.
Brian, this isn't the first time that we've heard about an artist's words being used in a trial. You've seen it yourself in your work as a defense attorney.
Absolutely. I've litigated this issue before. Rap lyrics are used in criminal cases in a number of ways. You can be prosecuted for the lyrics themselves. The lyrics could be used to show knowledge of a crime or lack of mistake when the lyrics happened before the alleged crime. But when lyrics can also be used as a confession when they're written after a crime. Now, the Supreme Court has already ruled that music is a protected art, but there are exceptions that prosecutors use to get rap lyrics in. In this case, Young Thug, the prosecution is using every method of prosecution to list these lyrics as potential crimes, especially when you look at the Georgia RICO charges, where Young Thug is charged as the head of the Young Slime Life gang, a subset of the Bloods. He's charged with possession of guns and distribution of drugs, and even renting a car that was used in a murder. But his indictment is heavily laced with criminalizing his lyrics and him appearing on social media, criticizing his attire and statements. Prosecutors like this raising issues of First Amendment, whether evidence is more prejudicial or probative, and it begs the question that's only being used for a certain group of people and a certain type of music, and that's an argument in of itself.
Yeah, that's an interesting legal issue. I'm glad you explained it because, that's probably going to progress, and we'll probably see other cases like it too. But speaking of this one, let's talk about one of Young Thug's co-defendants, Gunna, real name Sergio Kitchens. Well, he was released from jail on Wednesday thanks to a plea deal. Gunna was arrested and charged with one count of conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. He was sentenced to 5 years with 1 served in prison, but that was commuted to time served. The rapper is accused of being part of the YSL gang by taking what's called an Alford plea. The defendant doesn't plead guilty, but instead acknowledges that there's basically enough evidence to bury him. Well, during sentencing, Gunna made some pretty stunning admissions.
YSL is a music label and a gang, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you acknowledge the following statement? I recognize, accept, and deeply regret that my talent and music indirectly furthered YSL the gang to the detriment of my community. YSL as a gang must end. Is that your statement or acknowledgement?
Yes.
And as part of that plea deal, the rapper is required to do 500 hours of community service, with the majority of that spent speaking to young people about the dangers of gangs. And he's also not allowed to carry a gun. In a statement released after the sentencing, Gunna said, quote, "While I have agreed to always be truthful, I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way." Now, the plea deal doesn't require Gunna actually does require to come back into court and testify in the trial against his alleged co-conspirators, but he also has the right to plead the fifth. So, Terry, I go back to you on this. Gunna swears that he isn't a snitch, but how is this plea going to affect the other defendants?
Well, if you listen to the statements that he agreed to in open court, I think he already is quote unquote a snitch. He has basically said he didn't do anything wrong, that he was in the car, but it wasn't he who had all these drugs, it was someone else who was in the car. He's already said Young Thug was in the car. And so he's pointing to the gang and saying and admitting it's a gang, and he's basically pointing to the other. So I know he says he's not going to testify. That's his intent, but he has to get up on that stand. He has to testify. And I think he's already made all of the statements necessary. And the others, you know, they may just be in more trouble than they were in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm curious what he'll end up saying. Moving over to another A-list rapper who's making headlines, or maybe more specifically, his alleged killer is. I'm talking about Patrick Clark, who's still in a Houston jail despite a newly reduced bond as new details surface in the case. Patrick Clark is charged with murder in the shooting death of rapper Takeoff. He was a member of an Atlanta-based group called Migos. Takeoff was gunned down in the early hours of November 1st while at a private party at a bowling alley with groupmate Quavo. Police say a heated argument during a, quote, lucrative dice game was behind the shooting. In a hearing this week, it was revealed that Quavo was involved in that argument. Defense attorneys and prosecutors say Quavo has not been cooperating. Last week, authorities released a warrant to search Clark's vehicle looking for the bullets that killed Takeoff, but the gun that Clark allegedly used doesn't shoot the bullets in question.